A record number of Americans are currently raiding their retirement accounts early just to pay rent. And in a recent national survey, 44% of people earning over 6 figures a year admitted they are living paycheck to paycheck. This is a chart showing the recent trajectory of median household income, and it tells a story of an economy that looks perfect on paper. Unemployment is historically low, the stock market is booming, and the median household income just hit a record $83,730. But look beneath the surface of that top-line number. Despite earning more dollars than ever before, nearly 70% of the country feels completely broke. If you've been staring at your bank account on a Tuesday afternoon wondering where all the money went, you aren't bad at budgeting. The mathematical equation that used to sustain a normal American life has quietly broken down. The traditional American dream operated on 4 guaranteed variables. You could think of them as safe, reliable checks you could confidently cash as long as you worked a normal job. Over the last few years, those checks have been canceled one by one. Today, we are going to audit 3 of them: the house, the retirement account, and the emergency fund. By taking these lost variables and measuring them against today's wages, we can mathematically prove exactly where all your money went. The starting point for middle-class stability was always the house. A single income used to comfortably secure a spot in a sprawling suburban neighborhood. This visual ledger compares housing costs to wage power, highlighting our first mathematical failure. In the 1980s, the ratio of a home's price to the median local income was 3.5. Today, that ratio has spiked to 5.0. In major coastal markets, the math is significantly worse. San Francisco and Los Angeles currently have price-to-income ratios exceeding 10. This creates a lock-in effect. 80% of homeowners hold mortgage rates below 6%. If they sell and buy a new house at today's rates, their monthly payments would double. Existing owners refuse to move, and the market is completely frozen. Renting doesn't solve the equation either. The median asking rent is around $2,000 a month. If a family earns median income, paying for the average apartment consumes almost all their capital. The largest expense in the American budget zeroes out the wage gains of the modern worker. With housing eating your paycheck, we turn to the second variable, the retirement account. This used to be the safest financial bet in the country. In 1983, 62% of American workers had a defined benefit pension. Today, that risk has been shifted entirely onto the individual through the 401k. Your retirement is strictly your own problem. This visualization tracks early 401k withdrawals. When you combine the death of pensions with housing costs, Vanguard hardship withdrawals have tripled. They aren't buying luxury goods. The leading causes are basic survival needs, preventing eviction and paying off medical bills. The average person is now forced to mathematically cannibalize their future survival decades from now, just to keep a roof over their head today. That brings us to the third variable, the emergency fund. This is the simple cash buffer designed to absorb life's standard inconveniences. The national savings rate has been cut in half. Nearly a third of the country currently lacks the cash to cover a $500 surprise expense. Income is devoured by housing, the future is rated for rent, and savings are erased. The mathematical safety net is officially zero. When a life event inevitably happens, it immediately triggers the remainder. If the income is gone and the safety nets are canceled, how is the average family still paying for life? What exactly is the remainder? The gap between what life costs and what people earn is being papered over by an $18.8 trillion household debt burden. A massive portion of this is plastic debt. Total credit card balances have hit a record $1.28 trillion, carrying brutal average interest rates of 23%. In a single year, American families funneled $160 billion in pure interest payments directly to bank shareholders. The American middle class has been reformatted to operate as an engine of perpetual debt. The math is broken. You can stop blaming yourself for not making the old numbers work. Instead, we have to rethink how we navigate a system where the old rules are mathematically obsolete. Walk onto a new car dealership lot today, and you'll see a financial anomaly that has become a national standard. The average monthly payment for a new car in America has reached a record $772. More than 20% of buyers are currently signing for payments that exceed $1,000 a month. To make those monthly numbers work, 1 in 5 buyers is opting for an 84-month loan. They are financing a depreciating asset over 7 years, which means that in 4 years, the car will likely be worth less than half of what they still owe the bank. This isn't a sign of surplus wealth. It is evidence the middle-class emergency fund has vanished, replaced by the most expensive consumer debt in American history. To understand why this is happening, look at a couple in a normal Midwest suburb, earning a combined $110,000. They live modestly, avoid luxury labels, and follow the traditional path of a 2-income household. This block represents their monthly take-home pay. After federal and state taxes, their 6-figure salary yields about $7,200 in the bank. Fixed costs consume the first half, a $2,400 mortgage for a modest home, and $1,100 for childcare so both parents can work. Next comes the operational burn, $1,000 for groceries, $600 for car payments, $400 for insurance, $300 for utilities, and $300 for phones and internet. Finally, we subtract $400 for student loans and $300 for health insurance premiums. This leaves the household with a $400 margin to cover gas, clothes, savings, and emergencies. At this scale, a single car repair or a dental crown immediately turns a successful 6-figure earner into a credit card debtor. This pressure is a relatively new phenomenon. In 1970, a single income could reliably buy a house, a car, and a funded retirement. Senator Elizabeth Warren has spent 20 years arguing the shift to dual-income households was an economic survival strategy to counter rising middle-class costs. While real wages have technically kept pace with general inflation, they have failed to keep up with the specific, inescapable costs of the middle-class lifestyle. Since 2020, the price of eggs has risen 51%, and beef roast is up 74%. Family health insurance has hit an average of nearly $27,000 a year, and auto insurance increased 31% in just 24 months. Childcare now costs an average of $13,128 annually. In 45 states, that is more expensive than the average mortgage. Wage earners are struggling because the floor cost of existing in the middle class has moved much faster than their paychecks. While the cost of living squeezed earners, those who already owned assets saw their wealth expand without additional labor. This scale shows the current concentration of stock market wealth. The top 10% of households own 93% of the market, while the bottom 50% of the country combined holds only 1%. When the market reaches new highs, it's a wealth transfer for the top 10%, while the rest of the population watches from outside the casino. Housing follows the same pattern. A 2015 homebuyer gained roughly 80% in paper wealth simply by holding the asset, while a 2024 buyer is priced out by those who already own multiple properties. The American middle class has diverged into 2 distinct groups, separated entirely by the ownership of assets. 50 years of asset inflation cannot be reversed by a single policy or a video. Home prices are unlikely to return to their 1985 multiples. Success in this economy requires reducing your exposure to high-interest traps. The first move is a $1,000 starter emergency fund, placed somewhere boring, to stop the cycle of using credit cards for every unexpected repair. From there, you must target high-interest debt. Paying off a retail credit card at 30% APR provides a guaranteed return that no traditional investment can match. You also have to listen to what the math says about car loans. If you cannot afford a vehicle on a 48-month loan with 20% down, that car does not fit your current financial life. To cross to the owner side of the split, you must capture the employer match in your 401k and invest steadily in broad index funds over the coming decades. This strategy lacks a sports car thumbnail, but it works. You must systematically starve your consumption to feed your balance sheet. Waiting for a mortgage rate crash is a dangerous form of paralysis. Forecasters expect rates to stay above 6% for several more years, meaning you have to make decisions based on today's math. With no current policies on the table to roll back entry-level home prices or childcare costs, earners and owners are continuing to move on separate paths. Landing on the right side of this divide does not require a 6-figure income. It requires a quiet decision to prioritize building assets over maintaining a standard of consumption. The game has changed. It is no longer about how much you can earn, but what you manage to own.